in the way that Zen phrases a lot of this path to awakening, where you're sort of, not, I would say literally dying into the ordinariness of experience. Like
Yes.
a lot of, especially maybe on the more shamanic paths or psychedelic paths, even through the study of the 8 limbs or various different yogic traditions, there can be this early on presumption that like there is a state once I achieve, I will then be enlightened, and it can almost further the perception of duality.
Yes.
And whether it's the 3-pound flax or the 2/3 cup full of water, there's something so profound in bringing this insight into the everyday, mundane ordinariness of washing dishes, of folding your laundry. And where else could it be found?
That's beautifully put. That's exactly the point. Where else could it be? It's because it's so easy for us to think it's down the road. But it can't be. Because there's only now. There is only now. There really is only now. And I was just teaching a retreat with an old dear friend and mentor of mine, Roshi Joan Halifax. And she came up with this phrase that I just love, actually. The organism of the present moment. When we join the organism of this, of now, it's undivided. It's undivided. It's all inclusive. Nothing's, in this very now here. I mean, I'm talking about this one, not some theoretical one. I know this very moment. Everything's here and it's undivided. It's one reality. And, an opening, a breakthrough, a realization, an awakening is recognizing that this very now is all there is. And Thich Nhat Hanh, the Vietnamese Zen master, he used to say this: there is only the present moment and everything is here. It's so beautiful. It's such a mercy because, we think we got to earn and get to this marvelous place called awakening or something, and liberation, realization. We think we've got to get there and earn it. No, it's already here. It's much more about releasing, letting go, allowing, not fighting, not reaching, grasping, not resisting. It's much more about dropping stuff. The many things that we don't recognize we're carrying, ideas and body sensations, emotions, just to let it all be is actually that's what opens us up, and so I sometimes wonder with Zen and with other paths, like do we have methodologies? Try to do this, try to focus on a koan, try to focus on your breath, just to keep the mind busy, so that reality can sneak in around the back and come in and show itself. Because we're not trying to find it. We're trying to do the practice.
Yeah.
Therefore, the reality of this moment could show up.
Yeah. No, I mean, it makes total sense. And I feel like many meditative practices are giving the mind, which is a dog or a monkey, a toy to chew on,
Exactly. Yeah. And then the real dog owner can show up. All of this moment.
Right.
Yeah.
And then practice becomes, and meditation becomes less of something we do, more of something we are. But the beauty of having a practice that you're devoted to and you're disciplined with allows more of these spontaneous moments to appear. Like they become, like you're providing more and more opportunities for these realizations to come in because you're less distracted with the doom scrolling and our perceived problems and all of these things.
I totally agree. And I think it's also about when you've got a path of practice, you've got something to bring them to. It's like you've already got this medium into which you can start integrating. So that's like me when I was 19. I had no path of practice to which I could bring what I'd realized. It was just this thing that had happened. but I had no way of grounding it and integrating it, you know? And I sometimes think, like, at times I felt, man, I'm so grateful to my path of practice for all it's given me. And I remember there was a point, I don't know, 20 years ago or something, when I suddenly thought, no, I'm so grateful to my path of practice for what it's let me give it. All the things I've been able to let go of and hand over to this path of practice. That's equally valuable. That it received all this stuff from me that actually I kind of need to let go of, or I can let go of, and I didn't know I could. So it's a reduction, not an acquisition. I think that's pretty much true, actually, of this path. Yeah.
We're so programmed to view from the lens of acquisition, though.
Yes.
Like more means more things, more acquisition, more money, more followers, whatever it is, right?
Yes. Yeah, who would have thought how much we gain by losing?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's one of those counterintuitive things where it's like from that state of realization, I personally feel like there's actually nothing to gain and nothing to lose. Like
Yes.
And I find more and more freedom in making space for emptiness, both internally and externally.
Right.
Anything that doesn't serve a purpose, that isn't intentionally placed in my home, give it away, sell it, get rid of it. And I also think of like the value of any room is actually not the stuff it's filled with, but the actual emptiness in the space of the room, which makes it so we can sit down and have this conversation, you know, so like having that like emptiness first as a kind of viewpoint from how we build our home to even our email subscription lists, like every area of life, I like the phrase, reduce it to its maximum, you know?
That's beautiful. Actually, I got to say, Andre, just, you know, having a little glimpse of your home, it expresses that beautifully. I can feel that intentionality with everything that's present that actually helps the space to show up.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that. There's that Janis Joplin song, freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose. I think it's really true. Freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose. You know, I remember the first time I went to a retreat with my Japanese master, Yamada Ryoun Roshi. This was now nearly 20 years ago. I'd been training with my other teachers by then anyway, and they were part of the same Sambo Zen world. The first talk he gave is saying, you know, the point of Zen is this, that we're all busy trying to get the things we want so we feel okay. And that's, of course, it's material things, but it's also relationship, it's sort of some status, you know, nice watch, whatever. But we're trying to acquire things to be okay. The trouble with that is that we know we're liable to losing them. And in the end, with death, we know we'll lose them. We're going to lose the nice house, the lovely relationship when we die. Zen's solution is not to adjust that a little bit and try to assuage it a little bit. No, Zen's solution is to realize that we never really had them to begin with.
I love the way that's phrased. There is this the old story of Socrates going through the market at Athens and just seeing so many vendors and so many things and saying, who knew there were so many things in this world in which I do not need, you know? And like that's real power in my perspective, and it's what you're speaking to in that level of freedom, you know? It's cool to be able to look at things from the many different lenses. Like I love the path of Jnana Yoga, to be able to intellectually walk through this. You can get there through the intellect, you can get there through your emotions and the devotional practice, through the non-dual practices, through many different avenues. I think it's cool to also look at it from like the biological lens, how the sense of individuality, which we so strongly held the presumption of before, dissolves the more we realize we're inhaling what the trees are exhaling. They're inhaling what we're exhaling.
Yes.
The mycelial network that makes life possible, and it keeps on like anchoring in this insight that there actually is no strict demarcation line between self and other.
Yes.
And I know that part of why I love doing this podcast so much is because I get to talk with people that are steeped in various different disciplines that get to be an entry point to whoever might resonate with. Zen, I think, has been something that clearly, in the way that it was brought to you, just really resonated with your being. And there's so many amazing other traditions that resonate with people in different ways. And it's cool to be able to see the golden thread that weaves them all and how they're essentially speaking about the same source of our true nature.
Yes. I know in my own case, I actually have trained in different traditions as well that I found so rich and helpful. And my first meditation path was transcendental meditation for 5 years or so. And I would have stuck with it. I loved it, except that I happened to stumble into Zen through a friend. And I knew that Zen knew about that experience I'd had when I was 19. It was like front and center in Zen. That's what Zen is really deeply concerned with, is helping us all come to a realization like that. And I'm sure I could have found that in TM. I just didn't. It was very therapeutic and kind of almost medicinal for me. And man, I needed it. But in Zen, they talked about it explicitly. No, they talked about it in poetic language that made it explicit. I knew, oh my gosh, they know about that. And somehow it's central to what they're trying to express. So that's what got me to find. And then, but since then, like I've done the jhana training, I've done, some vipassana, some mindfulness, skeptical philosophy, and I was into the Greeks as a young man. I read ancient Greek actually, and I started a PhD in ancient Greek. And so I had some grounding in the Greek philosophy, and man, they're wild, beautiful. Yeah.
Just one more note here on the importance of sadhana, of a practice of meditation. As somebody who has, founded the Way app, which is really beautiful. The necessity in this day and age is that having a practice, like you said, allows reality to kind of sneak in through the back door. There's something inherently pleasant about the concentrated mind. And the reality is we live in an age more than ever where we have so many ways to become distracted.
Yeah. So
much technology and ideas about the world and things that are pulling us from the political lens that can, if we allow it to, pull us away from awareness of who we are. And so any other note there on how important it is for many of us to cultivate a practice of meditation, whether it's once a day, whether it's twice a day, and eventually it goes down deeper into these jhana states and where it dissolves into the awakening and it becomes less of, again, something you feel like you need to do. Yeah. I know for me early on, it was much more like of a militant practice, like I need to stick with this thing. And then it, sort of dissolves into less of a me doing a thing and it's part of the way in which you are. But somebody who's obviously such a prolific meditation teacher through your app and through in-person retreats, any words on the importance of cultivating a practice for everyone who's listening right now?
Yeah, I mean, one way I used to think about it, and I still do, and when I started out, I got this, was the sense of like, basically I want to have a shower every day. And my mind needs a shower. It needs hygiene. And it's a kind of mental hygiene to check in with myself, to give myself some space, and I could feel it as soon as I started meditating regularly. I got it. There's this kind of cleansing process that just a single sit, it may be a really distracted sit, but the fact that I sat still for 20 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever it is, and was devoted to sort of not doing anything outwardly. Yeah, my mind might have been active. It doesn't actually matter. The fact that I sat still and was kind of dedicating that little period of my day to my life, not to my activities, to my existence as a being. That provides, even if it's a very distracted state, just a tiny grain of perspective, which is a kind of mental hygiene. And of course, if we're doing it daily with consistency, it just tiny incrementally builds on itself. And that little grain of perspective over days, weeks, months, it grows into just a bit more awareness. And you just start to feel it, and you miss it if you don't do a day. And I don't know. I mean, I know there's a lot of nice things, of course, people do that are kind of meditative, going for a walk in the woods. Probably great to do the sauna and cold plunge, whatever. That there are things we can do that are in the same territory. But the particular value of meditation is that it's you're not doing anything. You're really just inviting being, to recognize your own being, and that has a particular kind of wholesomeness that you in yourself, you're giving yourself an opportunity daily to gradually, and then sometimes suddenly, discover that you've got your very own being is already okay. Whatever turbulence and trouble maybe in your own personal world, in your professional world, in the collective that we're living in, there's still the raw fact of your own being that is deep down is okay. And meditation is helping us align with that and getting to know that. So it's I see this, with so thousands and thousands of students, that it does actually work, but you kind of need to be consistent. And it's far better to do 10 minutes a day than half an hour once a week. Far, far, far better. That's, in a way, if I just talk about the app for a moment,
Yeah.
that's why we built it, was we wanted to help people get into the daily habit. And we thought that our radical thing on our app was that there's no choice. You do not have a choice about what to do. You follow this pathway, and it's going to train you in these different ins that we've been talking about, in mindfulness, in connection, in absorption, and hopefully in awakening. And we kind of circle round through them, these 4 aspects of practice, going deeper and deeper as we go. And what our kind of philosophy was that if you know about these different benefits, it's a motivator, is to know that there are these different things that can happen, and they really do happen over time. So it actually makes sense to be on a journey that's training you in these different aspects of practice. So, number one, there's fruits down the road, even though we're talking about they're not down the road. Actually, these things do develop over time. Number two, we know a journey that makes sense, that's logically develops and is consistent, and you incrementally develop your practice, and we can train you on it, and it's not like you open up and there's 100 different courses you can do. No, there's one pathway. And if you just consistently follow it, you're going to start seeing different benefits in each of these different dimensions of practice development, of spiritual development that a human being can go through. So it's super simple, but it's actually deep. And we think we're still the first app that is doing this. It's not a library, it's a pathway. And people, the feedback has been insane. And our growth has been, really, really awesome. And it's very heartwarming to see that people are resonating with it in the kinds of numbers that they are. But anyway, have I gone off track? No, I think I'm still
No.
on track. This is about the path, the sadhana, the cultivation, which is valuable in and of itself, and it might open us up to the realization that's always here.
Mm. Hand in hand, I would love to get your perspective on, as you awaken to these realizations, you increase your sensitivity, so too does your capacity for noticing beauty in life.
I'm so glad you bring that up. I think beauty is critical. And actually, that's another aspect of Zen that really drew me. It totally values beauty. I don't know whether we want this, but I'm a poet. I could share a
I would
poem.
love that, yeah.
Yeah, why don't I share a poem? Okay.
Would love that.
This one's called Sweeping the Yard, which is kind of a Zen thing. Daily chores.
Yeah.
Elevated as, sublime, Sweeping the yard. Sweeping the yard. When I sweep the yard in the morning, I don't do it for myself because I like it tidy. I don't even do it for the yard's sake because it enjoys being clean. I do it for the shy one. I do it for the shy one who lives inside me, who loves this world better than I ever will, who has nothing to prove, whose innocence is beyond understanding, and who I only ever know in glimpses that leave me breathless with longing, with hope that goodness is still possible, is still somehow present in this world. His sweetness shines on the earth, so the earth loves itself again. He knocks away all my ideas about who and what I should be. So we pick up the broom again, he and I, and we send the old leaves skittering across the patio and the dust smoking over the tiles, and we make the little heaps that we gather in. This is how he wakes up. This is how his wakefulness turns our little yard into the bright place I call home. This is how he wakes up. This is how his wakefulness turns our little yard into the bright place I call home.
Beautiful indeed.
Sweeping the yard.
Mm. I found poetry obviously has this capacity to speak to reality in a way that prose can't quite make contact with, right? So, such is the nature of metaphor, analogies, and story. And I wanna continue to get your perspective on the heart of that poem, and as it relates to our ability to notice beauty in life.
Yeah.
Like that capacity and sensitivity radically changes the more that we start to get beyond our own dramas in our head.
Yeah.
And that, of course, has many different implications on what we think we need to do, should do, must do in order to extract joy, beauty, love from the external world, right? You're inherently recognizing it in the very thing in front of you as you. So any other words on beauty?
Yeah, it's like, it's like if we can unplug from our surface life where we're desperately trying to manage things. We've got some notion of this line that we're living, this linear time line that we're on, and we got to get to that, and we got to avoid all these other things we don't want. If we can that's just a construction. And if somehow we just drop a tiny bit below the surface of that, we find beauty here and now waiting to show itself. And you can find it in the strangest of places. You know, I've found it on a freeway, just driving along and, I just want to get to the exit, 50 miles away and get to my destination or something. No, just sitting in this vehicle, the hills, the other cars with other people in it, the shine on the surface of the road, the shine on the steering wheel. It's actually all pouring into existence, being this very moment here and now. And it's beautiful. It's not exclusively nature. Of course, nature is an obvious place where it's easier for us to find beauty. But I think the key is that it's, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, that it's here to be seen. And it's just whether we can just get that little bit of release from our attachment to the surface life. Just drop an inch or a foot or a meter deeper. And we find that there's this part of us that intrinsically recognizes beauty in the world.
Huh.
I find it amazing that we do have the experience of beauty, because it's like, what's the evolutionary advantage of that? I mean, maybe I guess there could be a reproductive one for sure.
Yeah.
But we don't just limit it to other potential reproductive mates. We see it in the wild. Why? And there's a great nature film I once saw where there's this line of like 4 or 5 big gorillas sitting, staring at a bush. And they're just sitting there captivated. And what is it? It's a little beetle, bright green, traveling from leaf to leaf across this bush. And all of them are just staring at it. Like, is that, primate experience of beauty? I don't know. But it sort of looks like it could be.
Yeah.
I think there's stories of chimpanzees going to a waterfall and just gazing at it. It's a special place and they recognize it, I think we've got an inherent capacity to recognize something about our relationship with this world and appreciate our participation in it, and it shows up as beauty. And I think it's kind of important. They say that the journey of Zen, actually, it began in India, where the fundamental question was what is all this? It moved to China, where the fundamental question in the Confucian society of the day was how to govern, how to organize society harmoniously. And you can see some of that reflected in, like, koans are somehow trying to recognize our participation in the wholeness of experience or something like that. Yeah. Then it goes to Japan, among other places, and in Japan, the question was, what is beauty? And there's so many ways: tea ceremony, calligraphy, landscape painting. True, it came from China as well. But in Japan, it got refined even further. Beauty matters, and it doesn't mean being able to buy expensive things. That's the beauty of this world. Standing in the sunset, looking at that reddish hue on the green hill that develops. Being out, almost every morning I go out early and watch dawn come. And it always blows my mind. How can something this beautiful be, no matter what the disasters in the world going on, and the crazy politics and the machinations of war and trade war and all the things going on, there's still this beauty. And it's totally free. Nobody can buy it. Nobody can sell it. Nobody can own it. And yeah, I live in a beautiful place, Santa Fe, right now. But I see the beauty of dawn kind of wherever I am. Walk out before it comes and just see the early light arriving. The clouds, the way they look at the end of night with light coming, shadows suddenly appearing. It's a display of just such extravagant beauty. And, and you can't buy it. And it's kind of amazing to me that the gift that's given of beauty every day.
Yeah, it goes from this experience we have maybe with only the natural world of like a big waterfall or the northern lights or a extravagant sunset that lights up the clouds, to increasing our sensitivity to for me in the tea ceremonies, it's like the smoke that comes off the cup and the tea leaves that are swirling around at the bottom, and
Yeah.
something so simple, so small can be filled with so much.
Yes.
That's an incredibly obviously beautiful place to live life from, because it changes your orientation towards life when you move from that place of fulfillment and recognition of beauty. And it also, I think, rewires our notion of ethics, because I think that historically, like, ethics are something that needs to be taught from the outside in, rather as seen as an extension of yourself. Like when you experience the self as other, you don't need to be taught to not harm it. In a similar way, you don't need to be taught to cut off your own hand, right?
Yes.
And so I think sometimes some of these teachings can be perceived, well, like, okay, then what about all the horrific things that are happening on the world and the list of all the corrupt leaders that are coming out and the genocides and all of these things?
Yeah.
And at least in my experience, and I'm curious to hear yours, this insight does not remove you from involvement towards very needed humane rights and action in the world, but rather it can actually allow you to meet it more fully and be more equipped.
That's beautifully put. I totally agree. I think they often say in Buddhism, like the two wings of practice are wisdom, which can mean insights in all kinds of ways, such as we've been talking about, and compassion. And, we might say realization and love, and wisdom and love, and that love is the call that, precisely as you've said, that comes from our recognition of our non-separateness. The beautiful thing about these realization experiences, when they happen, is that you can't get one without realizing that you're part of it. It's not like you see it the way you see other things. It's not like, there's a beautiful painting, now I'm seeing it. Or, there's that power station, actually, and in the sunset it's looking so beautiful. It's not like that. It's you're part of it, you're implicated. So with that said, it is exactly natural that you start to feel love for the world, and actually you feel the sufferings of the world more intimately, but you're more resourced. You've got a capacity because the heart is open, and compassion is a motivating thing. They talk about the difference between, there's some research on this, between empathy and compassion. Empathy is feeling with, which is obviously a beautiful thing to do, but it's not motivating. Compassion is motivating, energizing. Compassion actually is a positive emotion. Yeah, we care about the suffering that we may see going on, but we're motivated to help. And that's a positive thing, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
I think that's intrinsically what all of this is about.
I've heard you talk about the distinction between breaking your heart, opening your heart, and the whole heart. And I think that goes hand in hand here, because there's no shortage of heartbreaking things when we turn on the news. And then in our own various moments of our life, we're going to have those moments where our heart breaks.
Yeah.
And I would love to just hear your thoughts on the progression there.
Yeah, actually, I'm tempted to offer another shorter poem, if I may.
I love it.
Which is about heartbreak and how, well, you'll see that it's what a difference, how it can change us in actually be, they talk about post-traumatic growth. And I think heartbreak can be taken that way. This poem is called Frozen Lake. And the image in it is of a frozen lake, that we can walk across or maybe fall through. So that's the notion in the poem. And it's got a little epigraph, which like a little quote at the top, which is from a Sufi poet and wise fellow called Sheikh Abu Sa'id, who called himself Nobody, Son of Nobody. And the quote is, Allah says, God says, the broken ones are my beloved. Frozen Lake, the broken ones are my beloved. When I think of friends who've been through the worst, through the dread love lives with, through the terrible fear anxiety can only dream of, I feel sorry for the rest, for those who had it all as they'd hoped, who crossed the frozen lake from one side to the other, never guessing the great dark beneath. But those for whom the lake cracked and opened, who fell into its unspeakable night while still walking upright in the light of this world, whose hearts burst and met its waters, for them there is no consolation, nor is any needed. Nor is any needed. That's about being cracked open, about the heart breaking and therefore breaking open. It's really about, in a sense, trusting grief. You know, grief is a thing all of us naturally don't want to feel because it's so painful. When we have the cause of grief in our personal lives, people we love very much going through very hard times, losing people, we may have grief. Some people have climate change grief. Some people have what they call polycrisis grief. The world is in all these different crises folding upon one another. Why not? Why wouldn't we have grief around it? You know, but if we trust grief rather than try to avoid it, it can be a doorway that opens us up even more. So the broken heart can become an open heart. In other words, the pain of heartbreak, if we don't resist it, if we surrender, it can open the heart. And then, the heart's more tender and it's going to feel more, but it's open. And when the heart is open, we're alive. We're really alive. We're really feeling this life. You know, if a life without feeling, it's not a full life. And when our heart is open, we know, sort of, this is my real life. You know, and that leads to a whole heart. We become wholehearted. And I don't know that we can get to wholehearted, I don't know, without heartbreak. Maybe we can, and I don't know it. But for me, heartbreak has been, maybe it's been the great teacher, you know, in different ways at different points in my life. And I've been very resistant to it. I've been partially open to it, or I've been wide open to it.
It seems like there is this inherent feeling that breaking open our heart, there is like it's a death of sorts, and so much of our fear in life is the fear of death of some form, whether it's our physical body, whether it's an identity, who we thought we were, what we thought something would be, a relationship or family situation. And I'm curious how you think about death and heartbreak and how they go hand in hand.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful point, a beautiful observation. I guess I feel that we go through many deaths. You know, maybe some say we dying a death each moment. You know, I know that I've been, you know, looking back on my life, I see, there've been chapters. There have been chapters, and in a certain sense, the time each chapter ended, it was a kind of death. There's also, you know, I think I referenced this a tiny little bit before, but there was a moment in my Zen training when I definitely seemed to go through some kind of something that was more of a kind of annihilation than I'd ever been through before. And in that moment, the very one who'd been seeking enlightenment or seeking awakening just was totally gone. And along with that one, everything was just gone. There was just nothing, actually. It was really, and there was nobody seeing the nothing. There was no seeing of the nothing. There was just nothing. And in that nothing, I only recognized it after. It was like I went through this. It wasn't an experience, in a sense. It was a kind of ending of experience. And then after it, kind of very disoriented sort of pieces started coming back, and for days afterwards, the only thing I could say was thank you. And obviously I didn't physically die, clearly, but there was a more thorough kind of death of something than I'd ever experienced before or since. And it was a turning point in my practice. It was after that I was no longer sort of in it, out of it, in it, out of it. You know, I got it, I lost it. That was over with that moment, because the person who had been trying to have a good practice and be more awakened and recognize sometimes I'm awake now again. Oh, I'm more deluded now. That person had gone. And there just was no need to try to be more this or more that or anything, because that was all gone. So that was, to me, I guess that was the real fruit of my Zen training for me, was that actually happened. And until that moment, I'd always thought, yeah, clearly, you know, I'm really lucky. I've been graced with some of these moments of awakening, you know, and I've had great teachers, but I'm never going to be like my teachers, because I still default to, or I at least repeatedly come back to this traumatized mess, you know, maybe slightly less of a mess, but, you know, somewhat prone to anxiety, stressing about stuff, fretting about stuff. I keep coming back to that, even though I can also recognize, you know, something boundless and beautiful and vast. But after that moment, it wasn't like that anymore. It was no longer back and forth. It was no longer wanting some state over another state. It just was sort of gone. And I know that I don't really want to claim anything with this, because I'm, you know, still a mess. You know, I'm still doing my work. But it was really decisively different. And I think there's a saying in Zen that the real way is beyond being caught in the many things and being awakened. The real way is beyond both of them. It's not about one or the other. It's beyond and includes both. And this is important for that cart track metaphor as well. It's not one or the other. It's both, you know. And they say that first there's the 10 trillion things, and then we see that they're all empty and one. But that's not yet the end of the path. Maybe, sure, there's no end. But the 10 trillion and the empty oneness, they're exactly the same thing. And until they're exactly the same thing, there's some kind of duality between them. You know, initially there's the duality of everything being separate from me and everything separate from other things. With awakening, that duality is gone. We discover the non-duality. Somehow all things are encompassed by one great awareness, non-dual. But we'll still usually, most of us, have a duality between recognizing that and being back in the old view. Back and forth, back and forth. I want to get that all the time. keep practicing, and eventually the second duality between awakened awareness and non-awakened awareness, that can be gone. That's very, very beautiful. It's very, very beautiful to find that there's this, it's unnameable. It's indeterminate. You could say it's totally empty, but on the other hand, it's all things. You could say it's all of this just as it is, but on the other hand, it's utterly empty. And you can't choose between them. It's so beautiful. And for me, in so far as there's still the thread of biography that I can recognize, that was a total turning point to somehow drop into that. Again, it wasn't an experience I had. It was somehow an ending of experience. And it's all been a little different since then.
Yeah,
say that, yeah.
I think it goes hand in hand with the sometimes often overused analogy of the chrysalis and the caterpillar and the butterfly, right? Like there is the death, the transmutation, the ending of one form we're taking into this goo of unknown, of nobodiness.
Yes.
Into whatever is going to emerge next, trusting that life is way more intelligent than we could ever, choreograph in our own minds.
Yes.
That it knows what it's doing. I also think about the sometimes the paradoxical contemplation on the progressive path of awakening versus the direct path. You can have direct insight, and yet it seems like we have this meditation practice. It seems like we're doing this to get somewhere.
Yeah.
And I love the Zen phrasing of water heats gradually and boils suddenly. That
yeah.
Like we have these little moments and these mini awakenings and ahas and realizations and insights into reality until the point where the water boils, and then it stops becoming a duality that we return to. Yeah, there's so much here. I feel like we could talk for days and days, and I'm sure this is the first of many conversations that will to come. I'm curious though, as we start to wrap up, take your time to think on it if you want. But if you had 60 seconds to share a core message, one truth to the heart of humanity, what comes to mind?
You are love. You are love. You know that movie, I don't know how big it is in the US, but there's a UK movie called Love Actually. I don't know whether you know that one. It was.
Yeah, I think I might have.
It's got some stars in it. I think I can't remember their names. Hugh Grant's in it, I think, and Emma Thompson, and some of those British stars, and a few American stars as well. Love Actually, and I've always thought, why is it called Love Actually? And it suddenly came to me, maybe it's the answer to a question: what really matters? Love Actually, or what's it all about? Love Actually. What is our purpose? Love Actually. Like it's almost like we're reluctant somehow to say it, sort of tiptoe around the word love, because of course it can mean so many things and it's got so many associations, but fundamentally, what if what in the end we really are is love?
It's been a beautiful through line throughout this whole conversation, and I think conversations and messages like you share so often about our true nature being that original love is it's really something that we need to hear, I think, now more than ever, as there's just increasing moments of depression, anxiety, meaning crisis, loneliness, epidemics. We're constantly reminded of our fracturedness, our fragmentedness, our separateness. So I highly recommend anybody who's listening, if they want to stay connected with Henry's work, check out the Way app. Go on that journey of those insights and meditations. Any other thoughts you want to share, and where people can stay connected with you and your work?
Yeah, I mean, if anybody's curious, I got this book that's a kind of storyline of my own path of practice called One Blade of Grass. And there's the book Original Love, which is speaking to a lot of this as well. And thewayapp.com has all you need on the app. But above all, try to just give yourself 10 minutes a day of stillness and quiet. And if our app helps you with that, fantastic. If another app does, fantastic. If no app does, fantastic. Just being still and quiet every day for that little bit of gradual lessening of stress, softening the body, letting go. It'll change a life for sure. And if more of us are doing it, it'll change the world.
Henry, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to connect. I'm looking forward to hopefully joining you in meditation on some of your retreats one day, diving more into your work, maybe pouring tea for you. Would love that.
I would absolutely love that, Andre. It's been a great joy and an honor, privilege to get time with you like this. Thank you.
Likewise. Everybody who's tuning in to this episode, I'm curious. Let us know in what ways this episode has resonated with you. I think there are various conversations on this podcast that feel they have like a different energetic kind of resonance to them. And they're speaking to aspects of self beneath the analytical, and they're more heart shares. And I think that was self-evident in the way that you shared and also through your poetry. So big fan of this episode. And until next time, be well. Take care.